This is in response to Billy's talking points memo from Tuesday, February 24th, 2015. ISIL atrocities continue as a cowardly world does little. Now, I'm going to disagree with Billy on that, but I'd like to bring up one thing right at the beginning, is that we recently celebrated the 10th anniversary of YouTube. And obviously it wasn't there at the beginning of the Iraq War. It might have been there a little bit more towards the end. But what we're seeing right now in ISIL is the instant replaying of the atrocities that have gone on. And ISIL has promoted that, and they have relished in it. It's painful for me to watch, to see, and to hear. Painful for a lot of other people. It is immoral. It is grotesque. I don't have any other, I have plenty of other adjectives, no need to go into that. But what we're saying is the fact that these things can be brought to the world's attention at a very, very rapid, very quickly, and our disgust can grow very, very quickly as they continue to do this, and it's very, very difficult to track them down, which I'll get into just a minute. So, as an example, there have been a lot of atrocities with Boko Haram, and those atrocities may be just as great, if not greater, than what ISIL is doing. And we don't see those YouTube videos of that, or maybe there's some out there, but I haven't seen or heard that many. We do know some of the things that we have done, and I would make two distinctions here, is that we don't want to have, we as the United States don't want to have ISIL taking over any oil fields or any type of area in Iraq. That's more important than protecting anything in that area that Boko Haram is in Africa. And also, all the players in Boko Haram are black, both the victims and the perpetrators. And in Iraq, it seems as if we're going against, hopefully, that they don't get any oil fields and take over Iraq, which I don't think is going to happen. But so that's part, and then of course, as there's a lot of atrocities that have gone on. Let's just say in Chechnya, which we haven't seen a lot of. It may still be going on some. Darfur had a lot of atrocities a number of years ago. There may be a lot of things going on in the Stan countries, and of course, there's a lot of things that we don't go on see a lot because the actual violence is being perpetrated by the state in some of those countries. But Billy goes on and talks about the 90 Christians that have been supposedly kidnapped. And I would agree with Billy that yes, possibly the only thing that we can do right now is hope and pray that they will be safe. I would also like to point out that there are a numerous number of small Christian and Jewish communities, or there were at one point in time, throughout the Middle East, and they lived in harmony with the Muslims, or fairly decent harmony for the past 1,000 years. I would assume that if they weren't living in any harmony, they would have been gone a long time ago. So they did live in harmony, or fairly some type of harmony. I don't know if that could ever happen again, based on what's going on there in the last 10 years or so, especially what's going on with ISIL. Now, Billy brings up a UN report in terms of rape, in terms of kidnapping, in terms of slavery, in terms of forced marriage, in terms of taking young girls away from their family, in terms of the sex trade, and in terms of young boys being trained to fight for ISIL. And all of that is exceptionally despicable. I would assume and I would believe that all of that is true. The question is what can we do about it now? Billy likes to point out they're just as bad as the Nazis, but we don't have any ground campaign to take care of this. As he says, as a world dithers. But again, I'd like to point out that day in and day out, there are thousands of people at the Pentagon and in bases and forts and air bases all across the United States who are working with our partners, working with all of the players there, trying to find a solution, trying to accelerate our campaign against ISIL and trying to obliterate them as quickly as possible. And whether that has to do with Tomahawk missiles, whether it has to do with drone attacks, whether it has to do with how we're going to set up a stable government in Mosul so this can't happen again, or whether it has to do with how we are going to have to work with Iran a little bit on this, how we're working with Iran on this, how we're going to work with Iraq on this, how we are going to get this done and make it happen so that we can have some type of peace there once this is all done. We are working frantically with all of our partners in there, the Kurds, the Turks, the Iranians, the Iraqis. We're working with Saudi Arabia. We're working with all of them, and they all have their own priorities. We must find a way to have it doing. Obama, Big Barry is taking the lead on this, and he said this 6 months ago. It's not going to happen in a year. It probably isn't going to happen in 2 years. That's the way the lay of the land is. There's not going to be boots on the ground. And when Billy can cry about this all he wants, but that's just the way it is. And I'd like to point out something else. As Billy is trying frantically to prove that he was a war correspondent, there are thousands of men and women in the United States and overseas working diligently to take down, this threat. And I hope it's done very, very